Hi, welcome to Coco the Creative. So this is going to be kind of a short video. I don't have that much to show. I just have a major finish that I want to kind of talk about really quick before my husband takes it to work. And I'm sure you guys know which finish this is, but are you ready for it? It's done. It's done. Sorry about the glare. It is done. My rooster. I was just so happy when I could. I blitzed the rest of the plumage on the head, but like I was so happy when I could finally get this in the wash, get all those like chart lines off and hang it up to dry, and then get it ironed out and in a frame. So super, super. And I framed it myself, and I got this frame from Michael's like off the shelf. So if it doesn't look like super professionally done, it's because it's not. But yeah, that is I guess my sixth finish for 2025, and it is my largest finish to date. So I'm super, super, super excited. A couple of other updates. It is August 2nd. Sorry about the beeping and stuff. My mother-in-law is texting me, but it is August 2nd, and I have put away my Christmas in July piece, and I will take it back out probably towards the end of November. That's usually when I start getting into the Christmas spirit. We'll see. But I'm definitely going to be working on it all throughout December. What else did I change? I decided to do Sampler September. I don't know if anybody's heard of that trend, but I saw another Flosstuber that I really like talking about it, so I'm going to try it out. I have two samplers, my Tea Time sampler and my Turtle Quaker. I don't know if the Quaker is technically a sampler, but I'm putting it in the same category. And I think what I'm going to do is like 1 week on and 1 week off. So 1 week I just work on the Tea Time sampler the whole week, and then I work on the Turtle sampler the next week, and just like kind of have them as focus pieces. That's how I'm going to approach that. But I'll probably be talking more about that later on. And I was just trying to get the rooster done, so I haven't gotten a lot of stuff done on my other projects, but I did get a little progress done on my Box and Fox koi. So I got more of the body done, and I got kind of tired of working on the fish. So I came over here, like this like kind of curved space is supposed to be taken up by a lily pad. So now I'm working on this lily pad. I don't know if you can see, my thread is like all over the place and it's kind of covering it, but yeah, this is the top of the lily pad. This is like a dark, one of these like streaks inside the lily pad that I just had extra of, and I put it there. But yeah, I'm probably just going to be taking a break from really, really big pieces right now, and just working on the things I can. When I say big, I mean like large, because even some of the like the samplers, they're still big, but they just like aren't that hard to hold. I don't have to use a thimble when I'm stitching them, and it's just not as much. It's not this huge thing getting it out and everything like that. So yeah, and another thing I wanted to talk about is all of the books that I'm reading. And I'm going to save that for the next part of this episode. I'm going to try to stitch some videos together. So I just wanted to jump on this one and show you the finished product of the rooster. So I'm going to jump off and hopefully come back and talk about books. And I just want to show you one more time because I'm so proud of it, and it's not going to live here. So this is like the only time I'll get to see it. One for the thumbnail. All right. Okay. Okay. Thank you for joining me. I hope you have a good one. Bye. Hi again. I'm back. So it's the day after the first part of the video where I showed you my where I showed you my finish of the rooster. And today I'm going to talk about a new start that I'm getting in the mail, but also this will mostly be about books, and I'll save that to the end. So, um, I haven't really made a whole lot of, well, I've actually made progress on all of my whips since I last talked about them, but I just don't want to show it off yet. I don't think it's fair to make you watch a Flosstube video without showing you something. So I am going to show you a picture of a pattern that I just got somewhere on the bottom, but uh, I got a new pattern from an Etsy shop called Needle Minder Layer, and I've actually been following them for for a while now, but I kind of like just followed them and said, "Oh, they have a ton of cute stuff." But a lot of their pieces are small, and I really wasn't in the mood to stitch small things. I wanted to stitch. I was looking for like big. I was looking basically to stock my stash, like fill up my stash. I feel like my stash is uh it's pretty taken care of now. Maybe one day I'll do a what's in my stash video, but yeah, now I want some small pieces because I'm looking around at my whips and they're all either medium size or like pretty big. So I want to work on some smaller pieces, and I don't really like the not that I don't like, but I don't want to work on the little small kits that I have right now. Oh, before I talk about that, let me talk about my mug and my tea. So right now I'm drinking what am I drinking? I'm drinking hibiscus tea, so an herbal tea mixed with ginger, lemon ginger green tea. And this is like my favorite mug. I drink from this mug almost every day. I usually don't drink herbal tea out of this mug. I usually drink like black milk tea out of this mug. But I got this from, let me see if I can show you what's inside without tipping it. I got this from another local ceramicist. And yeah, I just was at like my local plant nursery, and they do like different kind of sales and stuff with people who make things. I don't know what to call it. But they had a tent there where the guy he had brought all of his ceramics, and I wanted to get like 10 things out of that tent, but I just settled on this mug, and I love it so much. It's so smooth. Like, I love handmade pottery so much. And it's like, it's a different style. It has legs. I just love or feet, I should say. I love when pottery has feet. And a lot of times it can get very expensive, like the footed pottery. But this was not an expensive piece. And I thought it looked very unique compared to what you usually see on the handmade pottery front. So I love the grooves in the body. It's a really good little piece to have in my very, very, very small mug collection. Okay. Yeah, so let me talk a little bit about this pattern that I got. So I do not have any fandom related stitching. And it's kind of weird because I am kind of nerdy and geeky, and I am into I like anime, and I do play video games, and I read a lot of books, and you know, that sort of thing. But I'm a picky person and I just don't feel like a lot of the things that I'm into is represented in the larger fandom community. I'm trying to think of like examples. So, like I'm thinking, okay, so like I really like Adventure Time, but I don't think there's like a ton of Adventure Time stuff out there. When I was actually looking for Adventure Time patterns to stitch, and there's not that many. Oh, and one of my other reasons for not getting more fandom related stitching is because some of the stuff is just too big. A lot of the stuff is just too big, and I just don't want to spend that much time on just a show that I like or a game that I've played. It's kind of like I really like these things, but I feel like they're not my personality. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't want to be spending that much time on something like that. Um, what else do I like? I like things like Pokemon, but I would never want to like do a whole Pokemon thing. I don't know. I'm like, okay, I'll play a game, and then I got my fix and I'm good. Um, yeah, I'm drawing a blank like on all the things oh, Miyazaki movies. I do really like Miyazaki movies. But a lot of the stuff that you can stitch for Miyazaki is like very large, and I just don't want to do I just don't want to do that. So anyway, Needle Minder Layer on Etsy has great small pieces, and they have a large Final Fantasy database. And I love Final Fantasy games. I haven't played them all, but I've dabbled in lots of them, and I've played a few of them like all the way through. And my absolutely favorite Final Fantasy game that I keep going back to over and over and over and over again is Final Fantasy X. I like the sequel too. 10-2 is awesome too. And this shop has like not just all the characters from Final Fantasy X, but just so many cool little vignettes. Like they'll do scenes. They'll have little scenes you can stitch from Final Fantasy X, and they're not that big. Um, so I went on a little shopping trip because I have no small stitching projects that I actually want to do. And I haven't really spent any like the most I've spent on small stitching projects is like just little kits off of Amazon, and I think I only have two or three of those. So I've never like, you know, paid for, a set of small stitching that I was really really obsessed with. And that's what I did today or when I bought this, which was a couple of days ago. So I'm gonna stitch pretty much everything in their Final Fantasy X series, and I'm gonna start when I get done with that. I'm gonna go into the other ones that they have. Yeah, I've got like a bunch of stuff on there favorited that I want to stitch. And I think what I might end up doing is making a portfolio because I don't really see myself putting these things on my wall or anything like that. And I don't want to put them in my kids' room because it's my obsession. So, and I don't want to put it in my room because I kind of like when I come to my room, I like my walls to be kind of blank. I don't have a whole lot of art in here, but I have art everywhere else in my home. So, um, it's because it's personal to me. I think I'm just going to keep like a little portfolio, and they're all small of like just all of the different things I've stitched in that way. I don't have to finish them. I can just have it on the pretty fabric that I want to have it on, and that's the extent of my finishing. Like it's on really nice fabric. So yeah, I got like three different Titus like scenes. So there's the one that I'm going to do first is Titus with his blitzball, and he has like bubbles all around him. I think it's so cute. And then there's another one with Titus, and he's got Brotherhood, his sword, which is I have an obsession with his weapon. Like I love looking at Brotherhood. It looks like water in the form of a sword, which is like I don't know. That's my whole deal. I love water. And then the last one is Titus with he's got Brotherhood and he has his Blitzball, and there's like this like little wave sloshing around by his feet. So I think it's a really I think that would be a good like little series to do. And I thought about maybe framing that, like do like they have frames where you can have, three going down. I thought about maybe doing that. I don't know. I think it depends on how I feel when I'm done with all three of them. I'll come up with something. If I don't end up putting in a portfolio, but I think that will be the only thing that I might put on display because it's just so cool. And then I got my materials from 123 Stitch, which I've been wanting to order from them for a while, like outside of what I've already ordered from them, like picking out my own fabrics and stuff. Cause I've ordered from them before, but I just kind of like got what was recommended. So yeah, I'm like super excited. It's going to get here, I think in 2 days. And I really want to work on a small stitching project. And I love all my other projects. Like I'm actually surprised I've been very um like not fed up. I've been not getting fed up with my other whips. I've just been really enjoying each of them. So I'm really excited to add one more. So that will give me 6 active whips to the fray. So I'm super excited about that. Okay, oh, and I also wanted to kind of do a shout out to Crafty Gaming Jamie for inspiring me to like pursue my my fandom obsessions like through cross stitch a little bit more aggressively because yeah, I just was like, oh, I'm so picky and like I never find anything from fandoms that I'm like really willing to buy and stuff. But then she has just so many things that she's stitching um that are related to fandoms that she's into, and I'm just like, oh, I want to stitch a couple of things. So I was just kind of inspired by her to kind of get going in that direction. So oh yeah, you should guys should stop by Crafty Gaming Jamie. She's really cool. Like she has her games that she talks about, but she talks mostly about like I think crochet, knitting. I can't remember which one because I kind of just skipped to the to the cross stitch. But she talks a lot about cross stitch, and she also talks about the books that she's reading and stuff. Um, Basically all her hobbies. She has like a hobby like to-do list, and yeah, I can't be that organized, but I really commend her and I recommend her. Okay, so let's get on to the books. And I'm going to be looking at my notes on the screen. So, yeah. So, a little bit about who I am as a reader. I read mostly fiction. All the nonfiction that I've read was in college. I don't really read nonfiction. But I watch a ton of documentaries and like science-based and history-based YouTube for my like nonfiction fix. But yeah, I read fiction for the most part. Mostly like speculative fiction. So I'll read contemporary every now and then, but um, it's mostly speculative fiction. I've always been a reader, like for like forever, guys. I've been reading forever, pretty much. Um, I consume a lot. I consume a lot of books, but I'm particular about what I read. I went through a phase where I was just like I will read what's popular. I will read what everybody's talking about. I will read what people say is good. And then I just kind of I don't know, I had developed my taste for what I liked, and it was harder for me to find books that I really enjoyed, but I found that I rather put in the work of like finding books that I liked than just reading what everybody else was reading or what BookTube was saying was good, because I just ended up hating a lot of stuff I was reading, or just like, and I didn't want to get into like hate reading and stuff like that and writing hate reviews on Goodreads. I just didn't. I felt like that was just like counterproductive. So yeah, I'm very picky about what I read. But I do like to go outside my comfort zone. I just don't like to be like pressured to read certain things. So I read mostly on my Kindle app on my iPad. I used to read a lot of just physical copy books, but ever since I became a mom, it's been really hard to just sit down and read a physical copy of a book, just because whenever I'm sitting down reading, I'm like, okay, I should be doing something else, or I wish I could be doing something while I'm reading. So I've gotten more into audiobooks, but what I like about my Kindle app is that I can lay on my pillow at night when I'm like tired but I'm not sleepy, and I usually put on like a softer background. I don't really like reading against a white or even a black background. They have like sepia, and then they have what I've been reading on is like a green kind of background through the Kindle app. And that's it's a lot more gentle on my eyes. And that way I can just like fall asleep while I'm reading, and then I don't have to lay down because I'm already laying down. I don't have to turn off my light. I don't have to take off my glasses. Like I'm already laying down with my glasses off with everything right there. I can just close my eyes. So that's kind of how I read most of the time because I am a really busy mom if I'm not listening to audiobooks. So I am very comfortable with reading multiple books at a time. I almost never read one book at a time unless that book I'm really engrossed in that book and it has like a chokehold on me, like I don't want to read anything else. Um, so yeah, and I just doesn't, I have to get up to like maybe 10 books before I get overwhelmed by how many books I'm reading. Because I just pick my books depending on the mood that I'm in. So I have to have multiple ones around. I also read manga. I'm once again extremely particular about the manga that I read. um, I'll give you, like, I read like the series that I finished. Okay, it's probably been a year. Haikyuu. I loved reading the manga. The anime was good, but I thought the manga was so much more just impactful on my emotions. It made much more of an impact on my experience while I was reading it. Um, and right now I'm reading Witch Hat Atelier, which is going to be made into an anime. So and the anime looks beautiful. I'm super excited. And I'm also reading Yona of the Dawn. And that's what I'm reading right now, but I'm not like on one of the books right now because I'm not like in that manga reading mood. But I'll talk about them when I when I get there. So what I'm actually reading right now, because I recently like kind of tightened my currently reading list, because sometimes it does get out of control. Sometimes I have something on my currently reading list on like Goodreads. That's where I keep up with all of like what I'm reading at the time and what I've completed and stuff. And I'll just look at it and I'll be like, I haven't picked up this book in months, and then I'll just take it off of my currently reading list. It'll go back on the TBR shelf. Or maybe I'm like, no, I don't think I'm going to come back to this book. I DNF books, which is, that's totally fine. You can DNF books. It's okay. I mean, I've gotten like 50, 100 pages into books before I realize that I don't really like them or I don't want to continue with them, and I'll DNF them. I don't feel bad about it. I used to feel really bad about it. I used to force myself to read it till the end, and then I would regret it. I would feel like drained and disappointed. So if I can just tell that I'm not going to like a book and I'm that far into it, I will DNF it. Okay, so sorry, back to what I'm actually reading. One of the books I'm reading is called Hen Party by Josie Avery. So this is a book of the cozy mystery subgenre. And in case you're not familiar with the genre, because I just got into cozy mysteries follow a formula where a woman usually enters a new town and inherits something like a bed and breakfast or a bookshop. She becomes the sleuth of the town, just naturally. Everyone in these little towns, everyone knows everyone. Lots of colorful characters, think Gilmore Girls. And as murders take place, the sleuth learns more about the town's lore and about the different people. And there's usually other things like stock love interests. And there's also like subgenres within this subgenre. Like there's kind of like a magic cozy mystery variation where it's like a witch inherits like a witch shop or something like that. And yeah, they have different like forms of this. And Hen Party is the second book in the Aloha Chicken Mysteries. And it's about an event planner named Saffron who moves from Maryland all the way down to Hawaii to inherit her uncle's chicken farm. And within a couple of days of her being on this chicken farm, someone prominent in the town dies on her farm. And that's kind of where it all starts for her. This is a very cozy read. It can be a little slow at times, but what keeps me coming back are the descriptions of the location, because it takes place in Hawaii, and the food. I'm just like literally drooling at the mouth when I'm reading it. The characters' interactions feel very authentic. It doesn't feel like your typical American, or in this case, mainlander, because obviously Hawaiians are Americans too. It doesn't feel like you're the typical like mainlander who walks into a foreign exotic culture and is pretty much like a tourist. It feels like the author has actually spent time around modern Hawaiians of varying age groups, has spent time around their culture, um, and I appreciate this because this is the fourth like cozy mystery series that I've tried that I've actually enjoyed. I'm also reading another one right now that is really disappointing me, and I'm about to DNF it. I don't think I'll talk about the books that I DNF because I think I don't know. I don't want to be rude. Um, but this series is. I mean, the reason I'm on the second book is because it's resonating with me in ways that the other cozy mysteries haven't. So yeah, if it's like a genre that you want to check out and get into, I would say like try different authors because everybody has, even though there's an absolute 100% formula to these books, everybody kind of has their own style of how they write them. And the descriptions on the back alone, they can make it sound like the plot is really interesting, but then you start reading it and you're like, okay. But this one, I think I really like it so far. Okay, next book I'm reading, The Fated Sun trilogy by C.J. Cherry. I am about to go uh, fangirl mode for a second. So, disclaimer: C.J. Cherry is my absolute favorite hard sci-fi and high fantasy author of all time. Period. Most of her books are were published in the 80s and early 90s. And I think I even read some that came out in the 70s, but I do not care. They are transcendent. I've read many of her works and I have many more to go. She has a very large discography. I know discography is not the word for it, but she's got a large, like, whatever it is of books that she's written. Um, I think when I get through all of the stuff that I want to read by her, I will start working on the other stuff she's written because I think I want to make it like a life goal to read every novel that she's written because I just that's how much respect I have for this writer. I mean, I this author. I hope that I can sound like her as a author one day. Like I hope I can get to her level of like prose because amazing. So this is a reread for me actually, and I read it back in 2015, right after I read Dune by Frank Herbert. And I just don't know how CJ Cherry's books are not like, they're not as publicized as stuff like Dune. I mean, she was a woman writing hard sci fi at a time where there were no women writing in that genre. So I think that might be one of the reasons. But I liked the Fated Sun trilogy more than I liked Dune. Like, and I really liked Dune. I was like, I don't know how anybody's going to top this. Dune is really good. And if you could, I feel like if you could pull in a reader like me who is not like familiar with this genre or not like already like emotionally invested in the genre, like that's a big deal. Dune was able to do that for me, but like Fated Sun, like completely changed my life. So it's actually an omnibus. The first book is called Kesrith, then Shanjir, and then Kutath. And this trilogy is almost always sold as a trilogy, like together, like as the omnibus. I don't think you'll find, like when I was looking at, because I was trying to get like, I was trying to get like points on Goodreads for reading each individual book, but I think they were only published separately when she was writing them because I haven't found any other cover art that goes with each individual book. It's always just the trilogy altogether. Um, with that being said, the second book in the trilogy is the best one, Shanjir. It is like mind blowing. My husband read it like right after me, and he had like the same reaction as I did. And I can't wait till I get to the second book on my reread because I'm still in the beginning. I'm like 5 or 7% right now. The way that this author portrays aliens and how their biology and their psychology is interpreted by humans is absolutely unprecedented. Like, she is putting all of her background in psychology, linguistics, and sociology to very good use. Like, I mean, she was a scholar before she started writing these books. I think CJ Cherry has several degrees. You have to go look her up. I haven't read about her background in a while, but I remember when I was reading about her, I'm like, she's so smart. She has so much like education under her belt. Like no wonder her books are just so well thought out. Um, yeah, and I find that like this is like the second book that I've reread on an audio as an audiobook. And I find this is my favorite way to interact with audiobooks. Like have a book that I've read before, maybe like quite a while ago, but I still remember enough of it to like, enjoy it. And I'm gonna do this with a bunch of my other books. Like there's like I want to reread Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, but I don't want to sit there and read it. I want to listen to it being read to me basically. So I'm definitely going to do that with more books that I've read before. And then I'm also reading, yeah, go read Fated Sun trilogy. Even if you're not into like sci-fi, it's just so good. If you like any large books, large fantasy book or large, yeah, fiction books, you should read Fated Sun. Okay, Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers by J.R.R. Tolkien. I'm reading that on audiobook as well. I just finished Fellowship of the Ring. Yeah, this is another great one to read on audiobook because there's like a lot of songs in there and it is kind of like a more like old-fashioned way of writing and it just feels a little bit I feel like I can consume it a little bit better if it's being read to me. Um, but yeah, I like it. I grew up watching all of the movies, and I read The Hobbit a couple of times as a kid, but I couldn't like get into the Lord of the Rings. Like I guess because I was reading so young, I just always fell off. So this is just me kind of reconnecting to the series in a way that I can actually process what's going on, and just not get bored as easily. Okay. Another book that I'm reading is called A Bond Undone by Jin Yong. This is actually the second book in a series called Legends of the Condor Heroes. And I read the first book on my Kindle. This one, I found it on Spotify, so I'm going to read it as an audiobook. Uh, Jin Yong, the author, is considered one of the grandfathers of Kung Fu tropes in books and movies. A lot of the themes and storylines that show up in Kung Fu films are directly inspired by this series. I, as a former English teacher and English education major, I really do love source texts. I love to study the precursors to a style of storytelling that has cemented itself in our culture in some way, shape, or form. Um, from a Western perspective, like you can think of Dracula and Frankenstein. So much of the way the media approaches stories about vampires and Gothic literature started there. And it's really interesting to me to explore that and contemplate the aspects of this type of story that really resonated with audiences and what actually stayed behind with the source itself. And also, I'm writing a web novel that is heavily inspired by like Chinese legend and mythology and stuff. And it has like some kung fu in there and just martial arts, that kind of like storytelling. And so I like to see like what's like kind of like the old school stuff that people were reading about these topics. And it's kind of weird because like I grew up watching anime, like a lot of like shonen action, anime, and I can see the influences of because a lot of like what you see in anime actually came from Chinese kung fu storytelling and mythology and stuff like that. So it's just really cool to like see all of that stuff reflected as I'm reading backwards through time. um, the next book, and I think this is the last book that I'm currently reading before I have a couple of honorable mentions, is Beware of Chicken. I'm reading another book about chickens. I'm reading this on my Kindle app and listening to it on my Speechify app whenever it's convenient for me. So I'm like going back and forth between reading it with my eyes and reading it as an audiobook. But I turn it on when I'm stitching. And I also do this with Hen Party. I do this with my other Kindle app book. This is a new Beware of Chicken is a new genre that I'm trying out. I've only read a little bit of these like cultivation progression fantasies from online web novels. And this type of story is very common and popular in Asia. Like a cozy mystery, it also follows a formula. And so once again, I'm writing my own web novel called The Rising Sun Saga. And at first it was just inspired by anime, but now I'm like just more curious about more um like Asian like forms of literature that have, and this is a very modern like version of that because it was written, I'm pretty sure, within the past decade, maybe within even the past 5 years. I'm pretty sure Beware of Chicken started off as a web novel that eventually got published. So let me just kind of tell you what the premise is. And this is kind of like a generalized, like what happens in these books. Um, but the premise of this book and many books like it, someone from our modern day wakes up in the body of a person from the fantasy past who has recently died. The MC inherits all of the dead characters' powers and basically their whole life. The main character gets to keep the memories of the dead person as context for how to navigate the new world, but ultimately they get to make their own choices. And then there's another element that comes with these stories that I don't think is in this story, but it's in other stories like it. Sometimes there is a system that limits or influences the choices that the MC makes. The system will talk to the MC in a way that other characters cannot see, like a voice in their head. It gives them information and grants them points or takes points away depending on how well or poorly they meet the expectations of the rules of the game. You also see this in like shows like Solo Leveling, which started off as a web novel. So it doesn't have to be like someone wakes up in the distant past. It can just be like someone goes into a video game, or a video game a system gets thrust on them in some way. And yeah, but I don't think Beware of Chicken has a system. Either that or I haven't come across the system character yet. Yeah, I'm only on chapter 2, so the system might show up later. But anyway, the guy in this game wakes up in the body of a cultivator, which is basically a student of kung fu at the highest spiritual level. And sorry, I lost my place in my notes. He decides that he doesn't want to pursue cultivation, so he finds a place to settle down as a farmer instead. He redirects his cultivation skills into farming, and this obviously sets the foundation for a comedic story. And a lot of the results of the character's choices are meant to be comedic, because of course no one understands why he would want to be a farmer if he's got all these powers and stuff. I like it so far. It's really easy to read. It goes fast. Yeah, and this is supposed to cover several books, so I'm really curious to see how far the author can take this concept. Yeah, it'll be interesting. Okay, so those are all the books I'm reading right now. And I'm enjoying all of them. And I think soon I'm going to go for a walk and listen to one of the books because I did that yesterday and it was actually nice. But I do have a couple of honorable mentions. So these are 2 books that I just finished, and I just want to talk about them because they were just so good. So one of the books I just finished is The Scum Villain's Self-Saving System by Mo Shang Tong Shu. I don't know if I said that right. I did my best. This is another cultivation isekai light novel. There is a focus on romance more so than the other books that I'm reading. And but more so, I picked it up because it looked, first of all, the cover is gorgeous. It's green. I like greens. I'm like, oh my gosh, the whole book is green. Everybody's dressed up in green and everything looks so beautiful. Yeah, so I really liked the cover. But when I read the description, I was like, this sounds absolutely hilarious. The MC is actually transported into a web novel that they've read on the internet. There is a system present, and it's very bossy and strict. And the system reduces the MC's points if he doesn't do what he's supposed to do in the novel as the villain. Like, he wakes up in the novel in the body of the villain. The MC has to find a way to change his fate because the villain dies by the hands of the protagonist in a really gruesome way, but he has to do this without upsetting the system. It is hilarious. It's so funny. The dramatic irony, the situational irony, it carries the book. It is so funny. Um and yeah, I actually have this book. I know I keep showing pictures of everything, and that is because all my books are still in boxes. We just moved into this house. We haven't gotten bookshelves yet, and I'm not digging these out. I only have like this one I actually have a hard copy of. The rest of the books, and then Faded Sun I have a hard copy of. The rest of the books are on my Kindle, or I'm reading them on I'm listening to them on Spotify. So yeah. And then I've just finished this suspense thriller called The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. This takes place at a summer camp during the 1970s, but there's also flashbacks all throughout the book to the 1950s. I really liked this book, especially since crime thrillers are not my genre. Like, I don't typically go for that, but I wanted to step out of my comfort zone. I try to do that every so often, and I really liked the description for this book. I didn't expect this, but it very naturally and yet very intentionally explores themes of feminism, and specifically feminism through the lens of girlhood, the transition from girlhood into adulthood, as well as gender identity during the 1970s, which I believe is like when we had this major shift in America's social and political climate. But it's enjoyable. It's not like, it's not like a preachy book. It's quite enjoyable. It's very suspenseful. And one thing I really appreciate about it, it does not have, what's the word? It doesn't rely on like shock value to like create its suspense. Sometimes I feel like with some of these books, they rely on like really traumatic, really disturbing scenes and situations and things happening to the characters that is just supposed to like shock you into liking it or something. And this book just didn't do that. It created a lot of suspense without like completely like just having all this like sensationalized stuff happening. I think it was just a really good read. So yeah, that's all I have for you. This ended up being a much longer video than I wanted it to be, but I really wanted to talk about my books so that I can just like casually refer back to them and you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, thanks for staying for the whole video. I really appreciate it. And I hope you have a good one. Bye.